I wanted a place for people to receive authentic guidance and practical ways to awaken. Thought-provoking, paradigm-shifting, and empowering. This is about expanding our human consciousness to create a wave of new possibilities. I'm Dr. Theresa Bullard-Whyke, and this is Quantum Minds TV. Welcome back to Quantum Minds TV, where we take a deep dive into various perspectives on what it's going to take to create a shift in human consciousness. In this episode, we're continuing the conversation with Drs. JJ and Desiree Hurtak. I wanted to come back as well to what you mentioned, Dr. Hurtak, around music and sound, and how these understanding how we can tune into the right frequencies to raise our vibration, whether it's through music or chants or the just the right tones and so forth. And then I know also that you both worked with Dr. Peter Gariev. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but the work that he has done on both the phantom DNA as well as on how we can modulate words and sounds with the correct frequencies into the DNA and it will respond. Can you share a little bit about how you guys are working with sound, number one, and also some of your research and work with Dr. Gariev?
We did the paper with him, and of course, as many of our students know throughout the world, we've been working with leading composers and musicians for many decades to show that the human mind responds favorably to certain sound frequencies, to certain micropulses that allow assimilation of knowledge to come in waves in a greater, so we say, synthesis or synergy. So we are working with what I would call a musical understanding of the human body as a biotransducer of sound and information processing.
Right. So we talk about particles, and you're right. I mean, if you look at the electron, proton, neutron, it's another three. There's many of them. I would love to hear that program. I'm sure it's fabulous. The idea being that before that, and even science will tell you, probably before the particle condensated into what it is, maybe it was vibratory frequencies. In fact, of course, the Bohr atom is popular, but even Bohr now, if he was alive, would say, hey, it's all more vibration. And it's not just, the hard reality of a particle. So that's what Gariev had thought about. He said that even the DNA, in his opinion, was a concretization of a light wave frequency. And that light wave frequency is still present in all of nature. And he felt he could reach the DNA literally by light frequencies penetrating it. And we know that. I mean, if you do kind of too strong nuclear radiation, you can destroy the DNA as an example. Mm-hmm. But how about using the right frequencies to heal the DNA? And that's what he felt. So he felt that there was the coding, very much like bone, but on a particle scale, if I can say that, or a DNA scale. There was the coding, there was a light frequency, and that became the physical reality of our DNA. We believe that wholeheartedly as well. Mm-hmm. So frequency vibration. We've seen also how if you put sound, Cymantics, Hans Jenny showed this, you put a sound frequency to particles, they'll form sacred geometries, they'll form special arrangements because of the sound geometry influencing them. So there's this higher understanding that even us, I mean, if you go back to the scroll of Genesis, before we fell into this reality, we had to take on bodies of skin. Well, what were we before we were bodies of skin? How do we get 12 ribcage scenarios? How do we get, when we're born, 33 bones in the spinal column before they fuse together? How does all this mathematics work?
So it's all numerology, right? It's
all higher mathematics.
It's math and music or vibration together. If we demythologize the ancient scriptures, look very carefully, we will see that there are enormous breakthroughs that take place when we see the story or narrative in terms of a holistic model of humanity rediscovering itself, rediscovering the divine spark of potential in the way that the mind shares its reality with the divine source, and vice versa, how the divine source instantaneously manifests or fuses with the mind that explores and expands. And so life is a combination of theos, what the Greeks call the divine mind, with anthropos, or we will call the narrative human, rediscovering himself or itself within the larger narrative of vibration. Everything is vibrations. This is what we did with Alice Coltrane, the great singer-composer, Carlos Santana, the very unique, popular singer who realizes we're able to change our consciousness by shifting our vibrations to positive thinking, to positive music. And this has been our contribution, working with him and others, trying to get a better scripting for young people to go beyond the age of violence, we will call the lower chakras, into the higher energy fields of what we will call the Kabbalistic or mystical ideal, that we are beings that are capable of connecting with the higher evolution, the higher mind of the universe.
And we wanted to play a sample of some of your, music compositions with your, the visual and the meditation and things that you have created. So we're going to take a moment to just have a little bit of a consciousness break here and play a sample of that. So I love how you just were describing, Dr. Hurtak, around, that we are, yes, we have these bodies of skin, but beyond that, we are these vibrational beings, this spiritual essence, this essence of mind, consciousness, whatever we want to call it. But we are multidimensional, multi-vibrational, and that essence, that is the essence that we want to get in touch with beyond the physical body. And when we can, for example, use music tuned into the right frequencies, it helps us shift from this sort of outward worldly focus and into a almost more connected to the soul. It opens up this sense of inspiration within us. It puts us more into a whole brain state. And as the work of Dr. Gariev is also showing, it even communicates with our DNA when it's the right frequencies. Whereas
Right.
when it's wrong frequencies, it's destructive. So, how can we tune into the right frequencies, and what are those right frequencies?
Well, those right frequencies reveal that we are a collective humanity, working with a collective vibration of knowledge, working with the option of taking the higher path, as the ideal mystic would say, or the shaman would say, of service to all humanity, as opposed to the ego-centered lower path of simply accumulating everything that's possible. To use a figure of speech, getting one's plastic bundle quickly as possible and retiring from life, retiring from responsibility. This is the unfortunate business model in the West: competition, acquisition, consumption. You get as much as you can with your plastic credit card and retire. We believe just the opposite. We are here to serve humanity. We're part of the divine mind. We are here in a world that is basically a schoolhouse.
Right. And so actually we feel that implicate order is actually altruistic, that it's a positive movement. It's actually trying to bring us more into the light. But for the most part, if we spend all our day, listening to news, talking on our cell phones, which actually part of the vibratory system of our body is not helped by the frequencies of the cell phone. I often say if the creators of the cell phone would realize that we are really frequency beings, they could actually put frequency and waves that would heal us instead of, in some cases, hurt us. But
a modern scientist by the name of David Sloan Wilson speaks of the altruistic gene. But whether it's on or not, it's the altruistic profile that we can step into.
But when we meditate, what we do is we're able to literally try to get back to our original, we'll say, higher consciousness state. So we're clearing out from our body all that which had come into us during the day. So I think it's important to meditate in the morning, meditate in the evening, to clear our bodies, to clear our minds, to get back in touch with that oneness of the universe, to listen to that still small voice, and to know that we are empowered beings of love and of light. And to then, I would say at the end of every meditation, we should literally send that love out wherever it is on the planet, whether it's to our family members, whether it's to our town, whether it's to the other part of the world that's, in chaos or turmoil, whatever it is, whatever you maybe even saw that day, send that energy, send your love, send your power. And this really starts empowering the universe around you. And you'll find yourself connected with many other people. And that, I think, is a big start for people to be able to change and to heal themselves. I believe in allopathic doctors when you need them, but before you need them, try to work with yourself and clear yourself and make yourself into that holistic being that you truly are.
You brought up a good point there with at the end of the meditation. So we're tuning in to the still small voice, which usually means we need to connect to silence at some level, silencing the mind and allowing for a deepening of our brainwave frequencies so that we can, open up more to the spirit and hear that still small voice. But then, as we receive that guidance, as we receive that inspiration, as we receive that connection, your point around at the end, take it and send out the love, that really shifts us between the love and the gratitude and the feelings of the heart, and sending it out to the world really shifts from it just being, a personal experience to then it's, we're sharing it as a collective experience, and that opens up the heart even more. Now, this brings us to some of the work that the HeartMath Institute has done that really shows that when we can, create that coherent heart rate rhythm, or the variability of the heart rate can become more coherent again through experiencing things like gratitude and love and positive feelings, then we actually, send more signals up to the brain to create coherence. And our heart, even they've measured the photons that come off of the heart. I don't know if this isn't the HeartMath Institute, but there's been photon measurements that the amount of luminescence that comes off the heart when people are experiencing these positive emotions is like 10 to 20,000 times stronger than when it is just in a normal state of being. So how do you feel that the heart is playing a role in this shift in collective consciousness?
Well, first of all, the HeartMath Institute is only about 10 kilometers away from where we are here in Northern California. We simply advocate all of their publications. They've done a great service in bringing out the higher path that one must take. More specifically, the concept of a new mathematical design is heart and parcel of this greater map of consciousness.
Right. In some cases, they're also saying the brain is part of the heart in a certain sense. So, you were asking also in terms of consciousness, reality, and, we believe we're actually here to make choices. We have that one book, it's Our Moment of Choice, which has many people in there, including, as you said, Deepak Chopra and Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden. And the idea behind that is that every moment is our moment of choice. So, we use our brain, we think, to make choices. But what happens if the heart is starting to influence the brain? And I don't mean the emotions of fight and flight and all that stuff. I mean really love, caring, really understanding, having a higher, I call it, and that's what astronaut Ed Mitchell called it too, the overview perspective. If we see the whole scenario of life, not just from ourselves, but from this overview perspective, and then the brain who makes the choice of going that direction or going that direction, or putting energy into the system or not putting energy into the system, if that is from our heart-centeredness, I think we're starting to achieve our real mission in life. What's our mission in life? To make the right choices. Every moment is our moment of choice. So how are we making those choices? Is it about the ego? I need this. I need that. I don't care what he's doing. I only care what I want.
Or is the heart-centeredness of
well said, Desiree.
Bringing the heart up to the mind. And the ancient Kabbalists would say, what comes first, the mind or the heart? The higher Kether and the Da'at, or the Tiferet, the heart. And what HeartMath scientists have done has shown, they both share a harmonic of interconnectedness on a profound level. The heart is generating and working just as, shall we say, dynamically as all of the aspects of neurological firings of the brain. But the overcoming of the synaptic gap in the brain is done by these heart to mind signals, this greater sense of a love-centered cosmology.
I mean, think about it. If we started really seeing from another person's perspective, Dr. Hurtak worked with Ravi Shankar. He could actually go outside of his body and look back at his body. He could see what he was doing. When you have near-death experiences, and you hear this from Eben Alexander, for example, and many others from Raymond Moody's research.
Life after life.
Yeah, the near-death experience starts with a life review, and not from yourself. Not from, I knew that was right. I knew I had to do it that way. It was from the other person's perspective, what I did to him. I mean, that's an amazing phenomenon, but that also shows you the consciousness field, because you're picking up when you die, not your own consciousness, but the consciousness field that you put out to others. That's an amazing phenomenon.
This is called, in the ancient text of the Genesis, similitude.
Or the life review.
Image and similitude. Similitude was the supportive energy field for the form of life. And the terminology is Bates Lamenu, which is the form, Kidmuthenu, which is the supportive energy field. And that's the breakthrough that's happening in new science. People are realizing, no, we are not simply singular individuals in a vast and awesome universe, but we have a supportive energy field that we can use if we wish, which includes the dynamics of mind as well as spirit, or the energy that is the interconnectedness of humans with their consciousness counterparts throughout the universe.
So all of our brains are interconnected. What I say affects him. What he says affects me. If we start being more conscious and have the heart there, to that loving heart, to understand that, we wouldn't be having so much, we'll say, ego-ness out in the universe. We wouldn't be object-oriented. We would be human-oriented. We'd realize the love that we need to share to help and support one another.
So the heart and that love of the heart really is a unifying force. And when we act more from that heart space, we're going to act more from kindness and compassion and brotherly and sisterly love and so forth. And, when one of the things I love how you brought up the life review, so to speak, because one of the things I've often taught within my students and that we teach in the mystery school is, what would you do if you knew that everything you thought, everything you said, and everything you did, and everything that you didn't do that you should have done was being recorded somewhere, and that one day you're going to be held accountable and responsible for that? How might you change the way you're thinking, speaking, and behaving in this world? And when might you be taking more actions where, the ego would maybe just say, no, I'm not going to get involved, or somebody else can do that, right? We would take more personal responsibility for cleaning it up, for cleaning up our thoughts, for cleaning up our communication with each other, for cleaning up our actions, and being the ones to really take the actions when we see that some change needs to happen in the world, rather than pointing the finger and waiting for somebody else to do it. We would see, what can I do? How can I be part of the solution and initiate that change? So this really brings us back again to, how can we be those conscious participants in our evolutionary leap as a collective, not just as an individual, but as a collective. And I want to come back to something else that you said earlier, which was, we want to lead people towards light. We want to lead our world towards a society and a way of life that is more aligned with the light. And one of the things that we're seeing today in the world, in the consciousness movement, and the people who are seeking to have some consciousness expanding experience, is that there's a lot of promotion of using psychedelics to do so. And, I have personally found and witnessed that the more sustainable way, the way in which we can truly open up those gates and those doorways within our consciousness, within ourselves, is through using the metaphysical tools, having the practice, the discipline in a spiritual way, such as, using meditation or chants and rituals and mantras. And it's all within us, that we don't need something outside of us to do that. We just need to learn to create it within. But I often get very concerned about how much the psychedelic movement is being pushed and promoted as the way. And I know that you two have been on this path and on this journey for a long time, and you've seen a lot with your own students and friends as well. So what can you say to the people who, are thinking, are contemplating whether or not they want to go do that ayahuasca journey, or, go and do the whatever, peyote or whatever it may be? What would you have to say?
Well, first of all, I would say one has to be extremely cautious with the countercultures, the drug cultures. Years ago, in the 1970s, I was hired by Walt Disney's brother, Roy Disney, to teach science to young actors and actresses at California Institute of the Art, that brought together really the cream of the crop. And I won't name names, but top actresses, actors were involved with the drug culture, and their whole careers were ended. They dropped out. Even one of the major directors who worked with Steven Spielberg in the Indiana Jones series, who was to do a feature film with us, took ayahuasca too much, and he burned out his brain. So I would say what J. Krishnamurti said to David Bohm years ago. He said that dropping or taking drugs to see God or to have a higher experience is the most degenerate thing that you can do. You would destroy your brain. I would say young people throughout the world have to look very carefully at the, should we say, the quiet dictums or insights given by great thinkers and philosophers, that everything has to be done in moderation, and one should not indulge in drugs, particularly now with the advances of the paraphysical gifts that we have made in our research at Stanford Research Institute and leading think tanks. The mind already has the knowledge of the mystery schools. We don't have to go to artificial or Ellen Watts' puff on magic to see God or the divine. It's already built within our neurochemistry.
Absolutely. I'll just confirm what he said. Many people do want to have the experiences that we've been talking about today, but in actuality, the bottom line is you're not going to get the higher dimensional experiences. Yeah, you'll get certain feelings and vibrations and maybe visions and things like that. But according to many, and one of the friends we had talked to about this was a guy named Pat Flanagan, who created the whole Pyramid Power Research Institute, and he experimented with a lot of these drugs. He says most of these drugs actually just keep you on a certain physical level of experience. It's not taking you to those higher dimensions that we're all trying to reach, and many have experienced. Dr. Hurtak had a unique experience in the 70s, non-drug related. We've had many.
The use of spiritual music, the names of God, that produced that experience.
Yeah.
And Pat Flanagan told us before he died, he went into a state of seizure. He said he felt entities trying to steal his soul. He said, whatever it is, please tell your friends, students in particular, not to go the way of drugs. I remember a conversation with Carlos Castaneda at UCLA back in the 1970s, where I told Carlos, I said, you're favorably disposed to the drug culture. I said, your students will wind up as not lords of light, but lords of the flies. Their bodies will wind up in garbage cans. And after that, Carlos Castaneda shifted his psychology, say, stay away from drugs. So sometimes you have to confront really those individuals who think it's chic or nice to be part of the drug culture, but that is not really the way to the higher hierarchy of the cosmic creation.
So let's talk about these other dimensions when we say people want to have experiences that are outside of themselves, basically. Not only does remote viewing do that, but, what exists in these other dimensions? If I was to experience the fifth dimension, the eighth dimension, it's not just me up there. I always say that. People think, you think about the eighth dimension, you think of yourself flying and floating around, but there's other beings of energy that are there that will greet you, that will communicate with you. They're not on drugs, actually. They actually are there to help you, to take you into other realities, to show you the mysteries of life, the mysteries of the universe.
But you mentioned the earthbound energies. When we do take, a lot of the people in the today's psychedelic movement, they might say, well, it's natural, therefore it's good for you. But even these natural plant-based medicines that they call them, as you're saying, they're earthbound, so they will limit the frequency to earthbound levels, and you're mentioning these higher dimensions, which go far beyond the earth plane, and those higher dimensions will never be accessed when you're being anchored and limited to earthbound energies by a plant medicine, for example. So, it's not that people can't have a good experience on it. They might have a really, eye-opening experience. But, you mentioned Dr. Hurtak, the Carlos Castaneda. And I think that in some ways, when I read his first book, he showed that, in the ancient times, it really was an apprenticeship process. The apprentice would be studying with the shaman for years and years and years and have their ego broken down, and they'd receive training, and then they'd have to go out into nature. They'd have to identify things. They'd learn a lot of, they'd have a lot of education. They'd have to have a personal relationship with the plant before they'd ever even do the ceremony, the initiation ceremony of certain cultures. Not all cultures that had initiations did plant, medicine, which I think, the people who are trying to claim that it was all based on psychedelics are really misleading people, because there's a whole bunch of them that never did that. But they only might have done it once. And then if they did it correctly, the door should have been opened and they would never need it again. And now in the culture today, it's like they're not developing the relationship. They don't do the apprenticeship. There's no, years of study. There's no breaking down of the ego. And they go in as a tourist to just partake and have the experience and shortcut the process of trying to really open up these gates of consciousness. But then there's always a cost when there is a shortcut.
Right. This is the research of my late colleague, Dr. Andrei Kuhart, who was the foremost parapsychologist in the 1970s and 80s. He studied the use of plant medicine with the Lacedemonian Indians in Mexico. He called this psychotropics. And his conclusion was, as you just said, if you do not have the breakdown of the ego and work carefully with a spiritual guide or a master chemist, your mind is taken over, possessed, and worse yet, your whole consciousness frontier degenerates.
And we've talked to shamans throughout the world, and we've worked with shamans all over the planet. And some of them are very upset with the way the, we'll say, North American culture and the European culture has been misusing the traditional medicine. It used to be, like you said, a one-time thing or a sacred ceremony that would take place once a year, maybe once a lifetime, depending on the culture, but not every once a month here to have an experience. I mean, it really, it's misusing that energy, and it really is burning out people. They're getting ungrounded. They're not realizing why they are here on this planet at this time. And I would just say everyone has their own unique mission of why we're here, but we really need to make the clear choices to help humanity to make a difference, because otherwise we shouldn't be here at all. But we are placed on this planet. This is a key time.
And if we reach out, we need a vibratory mantra to surround the body, to protect the body from unknown or unwanted entities.
Well, let's go back to Barbara Marx Hubbard. You know, it's a crisis time, and we all need to bring the solutions, either locally or globally, to the crisis so that we can move forward into a positive co-creation. And yes, there are other dimensional realities, and I know you'd like to talk about that for a minute as well. We believe, and we've said this in many books, that there are various types of intelligences not limited to this planet. And we, of course, extraterrestrials are probably going to be a common term in the next 10 to 20 years. But we also believe there are avatar type beings. We would call them, in a modern term, extra celestials. They've maybe been here, but then they've evolved beyond the physical form, much like you see on some of the Star Trek or Stargate movies. And then there are what we would call ultra terrestrials. These are beings that have never really physically come here, but they still can connect with us. We would call them in ancient times the angelic forces,
archangels,
the positive forces,
avatars.
And all these beings are here to help us. All these beings, not extraterrestrials, they're pretty much like our planet. Most people are here to help us. Other people don't want to help us at all. So that's really what we classify. The local universe, as far as we're concerned, is very much like our world. It's not that much different when you get out there in space. There's lots of life forms. There's lots of positive ones. There's a few negative ones. That's what we think are local.
And, you know, even with humanity, if we look at humanity, you know, 99% of people on the planet are good people in their hearts. They're just trying to do the best they can. Many of them might be, you know, operating out of ignorance or faulty programming, but in their hearts, they're good people. And, you know, so yes, there are good people. There are those who are malicious, but the people who are truly intentionally and purposefully malicious tend to be the small percentage, a very small percentage. And that's why we need that other small percentage of the people who are ready to really be anchoring the light and harnessing and achieving a certain level of self-mastery and awakening in the light, so that they can, you know, tip the scales in the other direction to create that collective shift in consciousness, that up-leveling and awakening. And, you know, I think that the unfortunate piece when, you know, with the sort of trendy movements of the psychedelic, for example, is that it's a distraction. It's not a tool to awakening. It might help people open up their concepts and their perceptions if they've been really narrow, but that's not the way to do it when you're looking to really truly achieve a higher state of consciousness. It becomes a distraction. And as you know, Dr. JJ said that when somebody's, you know, inhaling, ingesting, whatever, they are, especially when it's a plant and there's an entity associated with it, they're giving permission for that entity to take up residence within them. And then what is the long range effect of that? What is the consequence? What is the energy exchange that it extracts from us that we may not be aware of, that it is extracting? So there's always, you know, a potential damage that comes, even if in the moment it might be a good experience for some people. The long range seems to be detrimental, especially when they do it repeatedly and not in the right conditions and circumstances, and it wasn't their culture that they were raised in, right? If they go with the tourism, and yet they're good people. They're people who truly are seeking to awaken, to, have something that helps them get beyond their ego mind and into, is there really a spiritual reality to this experience? And so there can be a good way to harness that desire. But I think that the key, as you're saying, Desiree, is that we really are at such a critical time on the planet that we need to really focus towards what is going to make a positive contribution, not just from a place of my own selfish perspective in my life, but from a perspective of the whole, because we are part of that implicate order. We are part of that noosphere.
Right. I would say go with the science in this case, maybe not in every case on the planet, but the bottom line is that the science of, we'll say, bone, that tells us that there's a universal consciousness field, which means all solutions. And quantum physicists or quantum physics tells us there's an answer, there's multiple possibilities to every single thing. And that's so important. There are solutions to everything that there is. And I don't know one scientist that took a drug and got a solution. I really don't. I know many who have tuned into that higher quantum field, who through meditation, through dreams at night, have gotten that answer to solutions and brought that science into manifestation. I think that that's why we really need to go back to meditation, to understanding our dreams are not only keeping us here just for fanciful notions of understanding, but that actually it can take us into areas where we can receive information from the quantum consciousness field and bring those solutions into reality.
So we can choose to go to higher consciousness levels rather than choosing drugs or anywhere of the lower social isms to be connected with in terms of our emotional body. We can choose the higher levels of consciousness. This is the work that Dr. Elizabeth Rauschenard work at Stanford Research Institute emphasized so much, that we have a choice to make in our consciousness shift. When both sides of the brain come together, we are opening a whole new threshold for multiple choices, and consciousness that is done with the knowledge of the higher heartbeat is the one that's most successful.
Join us again as we continue to dive deeper into this fascinating conversation with the Hurtaks on the next episode.
This conscious conversation was created, produced, and recorded by Dr. Theresa Bullard-Whyke in collaboration with Drs. JJ and Desiree Hurtak, and edited by Verse Content and HH Films and Photo. The theme music was created by Tim Mountain of Even Load Productions. Quantum Minds TV is a product of the Quantum Learning Academy.